Alabama fans, what's going on? It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com with another coaching update. This time, Charles Huff, in the middle of your screen, has taken the head football coaching job with the Marshall Thundering Herd. Before we get started, definitely hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. We appreciate you more than you know. So let's kind of recap the coaches that have left Alabama following Alabama's perfect 13-0 2020 season. We lead off talking about Charles Huff, just named the head football coach for Marshall. I think it'll be officially named at the beginning of this week, but reports are circulating that Charles Huff, who was the running backs coach at Alabama, has been named the coach for the Thundering Herd. As mentioned, running backs coach, and you look to the running backs at Alabama over the past couple years, Charles Huff played an important role in their development. Charles Huff came to Alabama from Penn State, where he worked with Shaquan Barkley and then works with Najee Harris. And Najee Harris walks away with the Doak Walker Award. You look at what their younger running backs did. Chase McClellan, Roydell Williams, those guys definitely got opportunities. We saw a lot of progress from Brian Robinson. I think where this is going to impact Alabama the most, though, is going to be regarding the key recruits that Huff has been able to bring. Let's just look at the class of 2021. And these were the targets and the commits that Charles Huff was able to sign from this incredible class of 2021. Huff definitely dominated the state of Florida, pretty much went in, got the prospects that he needed to get for Alabama. J.C. Latham included in that bunch. He also got another 5-star in Dallas Turner, big-time wide receiver in Ja'Cory Brooks. And then what I like about Charles Huff, he's able to flip Devontae Smith from Ohio State, and then he's also able to go into the state of Michigan and take their top player in the state and get him to sign with the Alabama Crimson Tide and Damon Payne. So I think from a recruiting aspect, this is certainly a big loss. This is a Rivals.com top recruiter in the nation, so Alabama is certainly going to miss Charles Huff on the field and for his coaching abilities. Jeff Banks, we talked about him several times. Following Steve Sarkisian to the state of Texas, Jeff Banks getting paid, right? I think his opening contract's like a 1.1 million, and then I think his second year is like 1.2. So Jeff Banks did a fantastic job at Alabama, helping to transition that special teams unit. You look what Will Riker did this year, who was absolutely flawless. And then on the recruiting side, Jeff Banks was killer. Look at these guys that he played a role in getting to Alabama. He was a lead recruiter for Kamar Wheaton. Kamar Wheaton is yet to be signed, so I'm curious to see what happens in that regard. Jeff Banks also helped Alabama land Jalen Milroe, quarterback who's already enrolled at the University of Alabama. Christian Leary, one of the fastest players in the entire country. Ajay Hall out of the state of Florida. Kendrick Blackshire, everybody's seen the photos of him. And then Robbie Oots, the tight end that is also early enrolled. So Jeff Banks is going to be another guy that Alabama will have to replace from a recruiting aspect. I mean, these guys, the assistants this year really cleaned up, and they helped Alabama build that class of 2021. And that's why it was so important to get all those guys to sign on that early signing day. Now let's talk about Kyle Flood. First of all, Kyle Flood has head coaching experience. A lot of people forget that he coached at Rutgers, came to Alabama, helped build up this Alabama offensive line that won the Joe Moore Award. That's the top award given out to the best offensive line in the country. And then look what he did on the recruiting side. He helped build Alabama's Great Wall, right? You got the Brockenmeyer brothers coming in from the state of Texas. You help J.C. Latham. That was kind of a tag team with Charles Huff. You got Terrence Ferguson, Jaden Roberts. So like all linemen, right? You don't even hear about the offensive lineman coach, but Kyle Flood definitely had a big impact with Alabama's line on the field and then recruiting. So losing Charles Huff, losing Jeff Banks, losing Kyle Flood, definitely big blows from the coaching aspect as well as recruiting. Let's look at the coaches that are on the move from Alabama. There's a lot. Let's go through it right now. Starting off at the top, we've talked about this before, Steve Sarkisian, named the head football coach at Texas following the Rose Bowl. He's going to be the head football coach for the Longhorns, taking Kyle Flood, just talked about him, Jeff Banks, A.J. Milwee, talked about him a little bit before, being that he was kind of that quarterback whisperer. So all those guys going with Sark to Texas. You also got Major Applewhite, the former Houston coach. He's going to be the offensive coordinator at South Alabama. Butch Jones, who was a special assistant to Saban, he's going to Arkansas State, where he'll be the head football coach. Rob Zell, former staff assistant. He's going to be the tight ends coach with South Alabama. Gordon Steele, son of Kevin Steele, will be the offensive line coach at South Alabama. Andy Kwan, former GA here at Alabama, will be the new Arkansas State tight ends coach with Butch Jones. And then you have Charlie Strong, who was a staff analyst here at Alabama. He'll be the linebackers coach with Urban Meyer for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then today, on Saturday, January 18th, we learned that Charles Huff will be the new head football coach at Marshall. So you're probably wondering, well, who is left on this coaching staff, right? As you continue to see all these coaches go elsewhere. Well, number one, you got the defensive coordinator, Pete Golding. Now, from what we gathered, Texas was definitely interested in him, and we talked about that before, but it looks like that has somewhat cooled off. So Pete Golding, let's list him as staying at Alabama for now. You got Charles Kelly, currently works with the safeties. Now, Missouri has been in contact with him about being their defensive coordinator. Kelly does have defensive coordinator experience. You have Carl Scott remaining for Alabama. Now look, Carl Scott, when you look at kind of the recruiting, who's going to step up recruiting-wise, Carl Scott definitely going to be that guy if he does stay at Alabama. Now, you got to remember, Carl Scott and Pete Golding, very tight. They used to coach together way back at Delta State. These guys have history, so kind of look at those guys as staying together. But I think Carl Scott on the recruiting front, very, very important. Holman Wiggins, he's the wide receivers coach at Alabama. Remember, when Devontae Smith, when Jalen Waddle would talk, they always gave credit to Holman Wiggins. He's done a fantastic job with that group, that unit. Freddie Roach, who was recently brought on as a defensive line coach, he's currently still listed as a coach at Alabama. And then you also have Sal Sinceri, and I think Sal Sinceri is kind of a underrated recruiter as well. Andrew Bone recently caught up with Dallas Turner on a great interview, and Dallas Turner is talking about Sal Sinceri and kind of the relationship that they have. Mike Stoops is a current staff analyst, and he is also being targeted by Missouri for their defensive coordinator position. When you look numbers-wise, it's worrisome. 11 former assistants will be moving on from the program. However, hold on. Remember who's still here. Nick Saban, okay? He's still the head coach. Assistant coaches come and go. It's part of the process. Nick Saban is always good coaches who have aspirations to be either head football coaches or continue to move forward in their career. So this isn't unusual. I think what's unusual is the amount of coaches that are going to Texas. But other than that, this happens every single year. I think this last year, it was unusual that Nick Saban had coaching continuity, which definitely helped the team overall. So a couple things to remember. As Alabama gets into the later part of January, the guys will start beginning their offseason program. They're going to be working with David Ballou and Matt Ray. Those guys were hired last year when Cochran left to Georgia. So now David Ballou and Matt Ray will have these guys for the first time for the entire fourth quarter program going into spring football. I think that's the most important thing staff-wise. Nick Saban is currently hired or is working out the final details with Bill O'Brien, who will be the new offensive coordinator. I think that is also important because the defense is already led by Pete Golding, and you have tons of players coming back on the defensive side of the ball. But you have your offense already taken care of with O'Brien. Yes, he's going to have to get a new tight ends, special teams coach, but the offensive coordinator getting in and starting to develop that fluidity with the offense, especially the new quarterbacks, I think is very important for this time of season. This is also something very, very important to remember. Nick Saban always upgrades from his assistant coaches. I know you look at kind of the coaching staff, you're like, how is Nick Saban going to upgrade again and again? Look, he's done it year after year. You can date back to his tenure when he started coaching at Alabama in 2006. Let's just keep it more recently. I think a lot of people were worried when Brian DeBall was hired, taking over for Lane Kiffin, right? There was that brief stint where it was Lane Kiffin, then Steve Sarkisian for one game, and then Brian Daboll. Look, they won a national title under Brian Daboll. A lot of people didn't even know who he was, and Brian Daboll comes in and helps Alabama win a natty. After that, people were like, Mike Locksley can't run this offense, can't do it. Came in, they were a lightning bolt on offense, right? So Mike Locksley leaves. Then steps in Steve Sarkisian from the Atlanta Falcons. People were like, oh, he's already been here. He didn't help Alabama win a national championship game. This guy has off-the-field issues. Steve Sarkisian, the last 2 seasons leading Alabama, it's been unbelievable. So, and that's just from the offensive standpoint. But Nick Saban's had to replace a lot of pieces so many times, and he continues to do this at a very, very high level. He's so methodical on who he brings to his staff. So I think when you look at Bill O'Brien, I know a lot of people aren't happy about that, but just wait. I mean, I don't think Saban would put the offense in jeopardy. I don't think Saban wants to take a step back with his incredible offense to where they're rolling in college football. Alabama, I think for years and years was known for their defense. And I think the defense played well towards the end of the season, but the offense now is what wins football games. Even Nick Saban said that. So remember, Saban always upgrades. Definitely hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I want to hear your comments inside the comment box. It's definitely time to start turning the page to which coaches are coming to Alabama. You have an idea of what coach might be coming to Alabama? I want to hear your thoughts inside the comment box. I want to hear from you who you think would be a good fit on this staff to help Alabama continue this incredible dynasty. Hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I'll catch you soon right back here on BamaInsider.com.